Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Thank you to the library for having us. We're going to start with a very familiar song, Over the Rainbow, made famous by the great Judy Garland. The first female composer we're going to share tonight is Maria Therese von Paradis. She was a prolific composer in the classical period. She was a friend to Mozart. She was an excellent pianist, and she had many, many concertos committed to memory. She was very famous for how much she could commit to memory. She lost her sight at a very early age, and she was influential in helping develop schools for the blind. This short little piece, Sicilienne, there's a little bit of a question about whether it is her work or not, but until proven otherwise, it's still attributed to her. This is Sicilienne for violin and piano. Often these women composers didn't receive the support that they needed to kind of keep composing and get their work out there. That was the case with Fanny Mendelssohn. Fanny, of course, is the sister of Felix Mendelssohn. She was not encouraged by her father the way that Felix was. He wanted her to attend to household and feminine things. She was able to play the piano, but not until she was married. She married a famous painter, Wilhelm Hensel. Was she encouraged to pursue her art? She was a prolific composer. She wrote over 400 pieces. We're going to play one of her songs, originally for voice. This is called Schwanenlied, or Swan Song. When I chose the title for this concert, A Resolute Spirit, the composer that came to mind immediately was Clara Schumann. Clara had a lot of difficulties that she dealt with throughout her entire life while she was composing. Clara Schumann was born into a musical family. Her mother was a famous singer and her father a famous pianist. From a very early age, Clara showed every sign of being an excellent pianist and a prodigy, and her father planned her musical life down to the smallest detail. She made her concert debut at age 9 to wild success. She toured Europe, and then later in life she met Robert Schumann early in her life, but then married him a bit later because her father did not approve of Robert Schumann at all. She did marry him, and she was the main breadwinner for her family. There was difficulty with Robert's mental illness, and they lost a couple of their children. But she continued to persevere and compose and play chamber music. She was another prolific composer. She wrote many pieces for chamber music, piano, voice. This is one of our very favorites. This is her second romance for violin and piano. Cecile Chaminade might be a name you're not as familiar with. She was a French composer, another very prolific composer. I think she's most famous for her sonata for flute and violin. But she wrote many works, and her solo piano works were very well loved during her time. She toured Europe, she toured the United States. Americans were very fond of a couple of her short pieces. If you played the piano when Cecile Chaminade was alive, you probably had her scarf dance in your repertoire. She started out composing and playing her music for her dogs, cats, and dolls. By the time she was a teenager, she had decided she would only perform her own music. So from then on, for the rest of her life, when she did recitals, it was a fully Chaminade program, no other composers. This is a movement from her 3 pieces for violin and piano. This is the Andantino.
Our next composer is African-American composer Florence Price. She was born in Arkansas to a musician mother and a father who was a dentist. She played the piano growing up and loved to compose from an early age. She was the first African-American woman to gain widespread recognition as a symphonic composer. She moved to Chicago later in life, where she played the organ for silent films and wrote arrangements for soloists and choirs to perform with orchestra. She composed and taught up until her death in 1953. Florence's music has been in the spotlight more in recent years because in 2009, a couple bought an old house outside of Chicago where they found boxes of old manuscripts. These were all works written by Florence Price. This discovery led to renewed interest in all of Price's work.
Natalie Townsend was an American composer. She wrote just a few short pieces. She didn't have a lot of repertoire that she composed, but she was famous for putting on musicales in the Washington, D.C. area. She was born in France to American parents. She came to the U.S. in 1881. She married Lawrence Townsend, and they together organized over 123 of these musicales or small concerts in homes throughout Washington. This is a short little piece for violin and piano. This is called Berceuse, or Lullaby.
Our next piece is by Rachel Portman. It is called Passage of Time from Chocolat. She is a British composer who made history in 1996. Wrong one, sorry. Let me adjust that. Yes, that would have been a very interesting piece indeed to hear us playing different pieces at the same time. Amanda Mayer was a Swedish violinist and composer. She was the first female graduate in music direction from the Royal College of Music in Stockholm in 1872. Amanda Mayer was born into a musical home and discovered her musical talent early. Her first instruction in violin and piano was from her father. At the age of 16, she began her formal education, studying violin, organ, piano, cello, composition, and harmony. Just like all 16-year-olds, right? Mayer performed violin concerts in both Sweden and abroad, and she continued to study composition as well. In Leipzig, she met pianist and composer Julius Röntgen. The couple married in 1880 and moved to Amsterdam. The couple arranged musical salons and music performances in Europe with audience members including Nina and Edvard Grieg, Joseph Joachim, Clara Schumann, and Johannes Brahms.
Now we will play this short little piece by Rachel Portman. Rachel Portman is a British composer. She's still living. She composes many movie soundtracks. She won the Academy Award for the soundtrack to Emma. She was nominated for the soundtracks to The Cider House Rules and Chocolat. She's written many soundtracks, probably some of the movies you've seen and not realized it was her work. The Manchurian Candidate, The Lake House, Legend of Bagger Vance, and many more. Also, she wrote the Broadway musical adaptation of Little House on the Prairie. So she has a very charming way of writing. I love her work. And this short little piece, Passage of Time, it almost has a little bit of like a mystical, spooky quality, so it's perfect for the month of October. Our next two pieces are by my very favorite women composer, Amy Beach. She was born in 1867 in New Hampshire. She showed every sign of being a child prodigy. She could sing 40 songs from memory at age 1. She could improvise left and right hand on the piano at age 2, and she taught herself to read at age 3. Her family struggled to keep up with all of her musical demands. She was very demanding about the style and the quality of music that was performed in her home. Just as a very young child, like 3, 4, 5 years old, she would throw fits if it didn't meet her exacting standards. Her parents kind of tried to squash her musical career. Her aunt came in from the West Coast when Amy was 7 or 8 and said, no, this is a real talent. You have to pursue a serious education for her. And at that time, they got serious with lessons, and then Amy went to conservatory. She was touring the United States as a pianist in her teen years. She married at age 18. She married a doctor who was 24 years her senior. He kind of squashed her performance career. He did not want her performing. He insisted that she just focus solely on composing. So she has a huge body of work, many solo piano pieces. It's a beautiful piano trio, works for violin and piano, works for voice, works for chorus. Some symphonies. Her most famous symphony is the Gaelic Symphony. All of her works are beautiful and lyrical. We're going to play 2 pieces. One is called The Captive. It is from her 3 pieces for violin and piano. The other is a short work called Invocation, which I was really excited to get my hands on. It was out of print for many years and then was going to become back in print, and then the publisher decided not to do that. Finally, at the end of last year, it was published again, and I was able to buy it. So these are her 2 works.
The final two songs on our program are standards from the Great American Songbook. These two songs were made famous by two female singers, Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald. Billie Holiday was an American jazz and swing music singer, nicknamed Lady Day by her friend and music partner Lester Young. Holiday made a significant contribution to jazz music and pop singing. Her vocal style, strongly influenced by jazz instrumentalists, inspired a new way of manipulating phrasing and tempo. She was known for her vocal delivery and improvisational skills. Her interpretation of Solitude is one of the most famous versions of this song, as in My Solitude, the Duke Ellington composition. Really, all music is a conversation. Ella Jane Fitzgerald was an American jazz singer, sometimes referred to as the First Lady of Song. Queen of Jazz and Lady Ella was noted for her purity of tone, impeccable diction, phrasing, timing, intonation, and a horn-like improvisational ability, particularly in her scat singing. Solitude will be followed by Our Love Is Here to Stay by George Gershwin.